Climate change is no longer a warning about the future. It is happening right now. Record-breaking heat waves, historic floods, endless droughts. Millions of people are losing their homes, their livelihoods, and their lives. In this documentary, Green Earth VN takes you on a journey through the top 10 countries most affected by climate change. The nations standing on the front line of a global crisis. If you care about the planet and humanity's future, please like this video and subscribe to Green Earth. The Philippines is located in the heart of the typhoon belt, and it is hit by dozens of storms every year. But climate change is turning powerful typhoons into deadly disasters. Rising ocean temperatures are fueling stronger storms, with higher wind speeds and heavier rainfall. In recent years, super typhoons like Haiyan have brought unimaginable destruction, flattening entire towns and killing thousands. The nation's 7,600 islands are also extremely vulnerable to rising sea levels, which threaten to submerge low-lying coastal communities, contaminate freshwater sources with salt, and destroy vital agricultural land. For millions of Filipinos, adapting to this new reality is a matter of survival, as they face the constant threat of flooding, landslides, and the loss of their homes and livelihoods in a battle against an ever-intensifying climate. Mozambique, a sprawling nation on the southeastern coast of Africa, emits very little carbon, yet it pays a devastating price for climate change. Its long coastline makes it exceptionally vulnerable to severe tropical cyclones that form in the warm waters of the Indian Ocean. In recent years, the country has been battered by a series of unprecedented storms, like cyclones Idai and Kinis, which brought catastrophic flooding, destroyed critical infrastructure, and triggered widespread humanitarian crises. The devastation is compounded by the country's weak infrastructure and strained health systems, making recovery a long and arduous process. These climate shocks not only threaten lives, but also derail development, pushing millions deeper into poverty and food insecurity. For Mozambique, the fight against climate change is a fight for its future. 8. Haiti, located on the island of Hispaniola. Haiti has long been considered one of the most vulnerable nations to natural disasters, and climate change is amplifying this risk to extreme levels. When climate disasters combine with social instability, survival becomes a daily struggle. The country is repeatedly struck by powerful hurricanes, which cause deadly floods and landslides in its largely deforested and mountainous terrain. But the impacts don't end there. Haiti also suffers from increasingly severe and prolonged droughts, which devastate agriculture and worsen food shortages. This lethal combination of hurricanes, droughts, and environmental degradation, all set against a backdrop of extreme poverty and political fragility, creates a cycle of crises from which it is nearly impossible to escape. For the Haitian people, climate change is not a distant threat, but a relentless force that compounds their daily fight for survival. 7. Pakistan is a nation of stark climatic contrasts, but it is now experiencing extremes on an unprecedented scale. It contributes little to global emissions, yet suffers some of the worst climate disasters on Earth. The country is grappling with a dual threat: accelerated glacier melt in its northern mountains and scorching heat waves in its southern plains. The rapid melting of the Himalayan glaciers, which feed the Indus River, has led to the formation of thousands of glacial lakes, many of which are at risk of bursting and causing catastrophic flash floods. At the same time, the country has faced historic monsoon flooding, like the superfloods of 2022 that submerged a third of the country, displaced over 33 million people, and caused tens of billions of dollars in damage. The immense scale of this devastation highlights the profound injustice of climate change, where those who have contributed the least are suffering the most. 6. Kenya, the heart of East Africa. Climate change is turning once fertile land into dry, unforgiving terrain. Kenya is experiencing one of the worst droughts in decades, a direct consequence of multiple failed rainy seasons. This prolonged water scarcity is devastating the country's agricultural sector, which is the backbone of its economy and the primary source of food for millions. Vast landscapes that once supported thriving communities and wildlife are now parched and barren. Livestock, the lifeblood of many pastoralist communities, are perishing in staggering numbers, and crops are failing, leading to severe food insecurity and widespread hunger. The struggle for dwindling resources like water and grazing land is also fueling conflict among communities, adding a social dimension to this environmental crisis. For Kenya, Climate change is a direct assault on its people's ability to feed themselves and sustain their way of life. 5. Vietnam with its long, densely populated coastline and low-lying river deltas. Vietnam is one of the most climate-vulnerable countries in the world, especially in its coastal regions. The Mekong Delta, the nation's agricultural heartland and rice bowl, is on the front line of this crisis. Rising sea levels are causing significant coastal erosion and allowing saltwater to intrude further inland, contaminating rice paddies and freshwater supplies. This salinization threatens the livelihoods of millions of farmers and jeopardizes the country's food security. At the same time, Vietnam is facing more intense and frequent typhoons that batter its coastline, causing widespread flooding and destruction. The combination of a sinking delta and a rising sea creates a perfect storm of environmental threats, forcing Vietnam to confront a future where a significant portion of its most productive land could be lost to the ocean. 4. Bangladesh. Bangladesh is a nation defined by its relationship with water, but climate change is turning this relationship into a struggle for existence. For millions in Bangladesh, climate change could mean losing their homeland forever. As one of the most densely populated and low-lying countries on Earth, it is exceptionally vulnerable to the impacts of sea level rise. It is projected that a significant portion of its land could be permanently inundated by the end of the century, displacing tens of millions of people. This slow-motion disaster is already underway, with coastal erosion swallowing entire villages and saltwater intrusion rendering vast areas of farmland useless. The result is a growing wave of climate migrants, forced to abandon their ancestral homes and move to overcrowded urban slums in search of a new life. Bangladesh is becoming a tragic symbol of climate-induced displacement on a massive scale. 3. India, a country of over 1.4 billion people. The impacts of climate change are felt on a colossal scale. Extreme heat is pushing entire cities toward the limits of human survival. In recent years, India has been gripped by deadly, record-breaking heat waves, with temperatures soaring to unbearable levels for weeks on end. This extreme heat poses a grave risk to public health, particularly for the millions of outdoor laborers who have no escape from the blistering sun. The heat also places immense strain on the country's water resources. Crucial monsoon rains are becoming more erratic, while severe water shortages are becoming commonplace in major cities and agricultural regions. The melting Himalayan glaciers, the source of many of India's major rivers, further threaten long-term water security. For India, tackling climate change is a matter of safeguarding the health, water, and food security of a fifth of the world's population. If this concerns you, please share this video. 2. The United States, even the world's richest nations, cannot escape the consequences of climate change. The United States, despite its wealth and technological advancement, is experiencing a dramatic escalation in climate-related disasters from coast to coast. In the West, prolonged droughts and soaring temperatures are fueling larger, more intense, and more frequent wildfires that burn millions of acres, destroy communities, and blanket cities in toxic smoke. The Gulf and Atlantic coasts are being battered by more powerful and slower-moving hurricanes, which bring devastating storm surges and record-breaking rainfall. Meanwhile, the Midwest is grappling with both extreme flooding and severe droughts, disrupting agriculture and threatening the nation's food supply. These disasters inflict hundreds of billions of dollars in damages annually, revealing that no amount of economic power can provide full immunity from a destabilized climate. 1. Small island nations. For many island nations, climate change is not a future threat, it is an existential crisis. Countries like the Maldives, Tuvalu, and Kiribati, often referred to as small island developing states, are on the absolute front line. Composed of low-lying atolls that rise just a few feet above sea level, their very existence is threatened by the rising oceans. As the sea encroaches, it contaminates their limited freshwater sources, destroys coastal infrastructure, and erodes the land they call home. For these nations, climate change means the potential loss of everything: their territory, their sovereignty, their culture, and their identity. They face the prospect of becoming the world's first climate-displaced nations, their people forced to seek refuge in other countries as their homeland disappears beneath the waves. Their struggle is a stark and urgent warning to the entire world about the ultimate cost of inaction. Subscribe to Green Earth VN to stay informed about the planet's most critical challenges. Climate change does not respect borders. What happens in one part of the world today can affect us all tomorrow. From the flooded plains of Bangladesh to the burning forests of California, we are all connected in this crisis. The stories of these 10 nations are not isolated tragedies. They are chapters in a single, global story that is unfolding before our very eyes. The science is clear, and the impacts are undeniable. The path we are on is unsustainable, but it is not too late to change course. The solutions exist, from renewable energy to sustainable agriculture, but they require collective will and immediate action on a global scale. The Earth does not need saving. Humanity does. If this documentary inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe to Green Earth VN. Together, we can act before it's too late.